Superstar Rihanna, one of the most iconic and influential women in the world today, is facing a deeply personal and painful loss: the passing of her father, Ronald Fenty. According to a report from People magazine, Ron Fenty died in Los Angeles after a short illness. He was 70 years old. The news sent a ripple of emotion across her fanbase and the music world at large. Though many knew about her complicated and often strained relationship with her father, what most don't always understand is that grief doesn't respect history. It doesn't ask how strong or shaky a bond was. It simply arrives like a heavy storm, and in its wake it leaves questions, memories, regrets, and silence. It leaves space where someone used to be. Ron Fenty passed away at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, surrounded by family. While the details of his illness haven't been shared with the public, what is clear is that this wasn't a long, drawn-out goodbye. It was fast, sudden, possibly unexpected. And that's often the kind of passing that hits the hardest. When someone you've known your whole life, someone who shaped you, helped define your earliest memories, even if they weren't always pleasant, is suddenly gone, the absence can be surreal. Born and raised in Barbados, Rihanna Fenty had always carried both pride and pain when it came to her roots. She spent her formative years in the small island nation, a place that was both a sanctuary and a stage for some of her earliest emotional struggles. She lived there until the age of 16, long before the glitz of Hollywood or the flashing lights of Fashion Week knew her name. It was in Barbados where her relationship with her father unfolded, sometimes loving, sometimes chaotic, and sometimes bruising in ways only time could soften. Ronald Fenty was not just Rihanna's father. He was also a man with a complex past, the kind of man who loved in fits and starts, who struggled with substance abuse, who was charismatic, infuriating, joyful, and inflexible, often all at once. He and Rihanna's mother, Monica Braithwaite, shared a life together for many years, bringing 3 children into the world: Rihanna, her younger brother Rory, and another sibling. But Ron also had children from previous relationships, 3 half-siblings that Rihanna would come to know in varying capacities over time. When Rihanna's parents separated and later divorced in 2002, it was a breaking point in the family dynamic. For Rihanna, then just a teenager, it meant the home she knew was splintered. And while time would bring her incredible fortune, unmatched global fame, and artistic freedom, her family life, particularly her connection to her father, remained messy and unresolved for many years. It wasn't just that they didn't get along. It was the kind of turmoil that lingered. In 2011, in a candid interview with Vogue, Rihanna revealed just how deeply her father's behavior wounded her. She spoke out after her father had made public statements following the infamous 2009 incident involving Chris Brown, the night that changed how the world saw both of them. While the public rushed to speculate and react, Rihanna was still processing her trauma. And what hurt even more was that her own father, the man who helped bring her into this world, had chosen to speak to the press in a way that felt exploitative, disloyal, and entirely alien to her. "You grow up with your father, you know him, you are a part of him, for goodness sakes," she told the magazine with a sense of confusion and grief, "and then he does something so bizarre that I can't begin to wrap my mind around it." It wasn't just betrayal. It was disorientation. When someone so close to you behaves in a way that's unrecognizable, it can feel like mourning someone who is still alive. You question everything: the laughter, the lessons, the memories, the motives. And sometimes you pull away, as Rihanna did. Years later, in 2019, she filed a lawsuit against her father, accusing him of trying to profit off of her name without permission. The legal battle was deeply personal, but in many ways it was also a boundary, Rihanna asserting herself not just as a businesswoman but as a daughter tired of being used. The lawsuit alleged that Ron Fenty had been misrepresenting himself and forming business ventures under the name Fenty, a brand Rihanna had worked hard to build into a global empire. He allegedly booked entertainment gigs under the impression that he represented her, when he did not. The tension wasn't just emotional, it had become legal. But in 2021, Rihanna requested the court dismiss the case. Perhaps time had dulled the anger, or maybe she had simply chosen peace. Because despite everything, the betrayals, the lawsuits, the interviews, a daughter still longs for her father. She might not want to admit it publicly. She might not even want to speak it aloud to herself. But that longing lingers, especially when death finally steps in and draws the curtain. Ronald Fenty wasn't a perfect man, and Rihanna never tried to pretend he was. But he was her father. He was there in the early days in Barbados when she sang into mirrors when she was just a little girl with big dreams and an even bigger voice. He was part of the backdrop of her becoming, even if he wasn't always a stabilizing presence. And now, as Rihanna herself is a mother, not just once but twice over with a third child reportedly on the way, the loss of her father takes on a new meaning. Parenthood changes everything. Softens even the hardest grudges, complicates old resentments, and brings a fresh wave of compassion for the mistakes of our own parents. Perhaps, holding her own children, Rihanna could better understand her father's struggles. Or maybe she remained haunted by the ways he failed her, especially when she needed him most. There's a certain loneliness that comes with losing a parent, not just because they're gone, but because your own place in the world shifts. You become the adult. You become the history keeper. The one who remembers. Who now tells the stories instead of hearing them. And for someone like Rihanna, who has lived so much of her life under a spotlight, grief becomes even trickier. How do you mourn in private when the world wants a statement? A reaction? A tribute? She hasn't said much publicly about his passing. And maybe she won't. Maybe she'll grieve quietly in her own time with her partner A$AP Rocky by her side and her children in her arms. Maybe she'll look back at old photos and feel a strange mixture of warmth and ache. Or maybe she'll write a song, not for the charts, not for a campaign, but just for herself, a melody soaked in memories only she understands. Ronald Fenty was more than just Rihanna's father. He was a symbol of contradiction. He was the first man she ever loved and the first man who disappointed her. He gave her life, and at times he made that life more difficult. He tried to claim pieces of her success, even when it cost them their relationship. And yet, in death, all that complexity dissolves into something simpler, a goodbye. It's easy to talk about someone's legacy when they've lived clean, admirable lives. When they've been role models. But real life is rarely that tidy. Most people are a mix of light and shadow, love and error. Ron Fenty was no different. And maybe at the end of it all, what matters most is not the public feuds or the courtroom drama, but the fact that he mattered, to someone, to many, and that he will be missed. In Barbados, Ron Fenty was known as a bit of a local character. He was charming, opinionated, always with a story to tell. He had pride in his daughter's success, even if he didn't always express it in the right way. And in his final days, he was not alone. He had family near him. He had people who cared. And Rihanna, whether physically present at his bedside or not, surely felt the shift when he left this world. Closing of a chapter. The soft echo of a father's final breath. The moment when, no matter how far you've come, you are once again a child, missing your parent.